welcome to episode 27 of That 60s Recording Podcast, the podcast that has conversations inspired by the golden era of recording. My name is Joe Montague from All You Need Is Drums, and I am your host. 27 means that this is over a year I've been doing this podcast now. I had no expectations when I started it, but the fact that I'm still sat here doing it a year later is fantastic, and I'm absolutely loving it. I hope I hope you are too. And with that in mind, I hope that you enjoyed the first episode of my conversation with Ben Pike. And this is the episode where we really start to dig into his gear and the mastering process. I found it really interesting, and I really relished the opportunity to pick somebody's brains about the mastering process. I know that a few of you have already been in touch with Ben about getting your songs mastered, and that fills me with joy. I love the fact that we can support people, the people that I'm interviewing. I just feel like there's a really lovely community building around this sort of 60s-y style ideas and music making. So thank you to those, and I have every confidence that Ben will blow you away with how amazing he makes your music sound. I'm sure it sounds amazing already, but there we go. Okay, we're going to dive right in. Here is the second part of my conversation with Ben Pike from Raretone Mastering. I suppose we should talk about the gear that you've got in your studio.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I'm happy to do that. I'm not sure, how nerdy you want to get and how.
Go full nerd. I want to know all of it. So obviously there is two choice pieces of gear that you've got that are gonna that sort of make me look up, and so. They're very. I'll let you describe them. So, do you want to just talk through? We'll get into those, but do you want to just sort of give an overview of what you've got? So you're sat. I've seen pictures of your studio, and you've got a standard sort of mastering setup where you've got a slightly angled desk and all your outboards in front of you, so that you can sort of tweak as you go. And then what have you got that you're using there, and sort of could you talk through your setup?
Yeah, sure. So, everything comes into the computer. So I'm not completely analog. I'm not going straight from tape. So as people send me the files, I go onto the computer. Then my converters or sound card is a Lynx Hilo, which is pretty common for mastering studios. It's just a really great interface. Great to be able to send your music out into your outboard and recapture it and back into the computer. So
Lynx has got. I've looked into Lynx Aurora at times.
Yeah.
I don't know the different levels of model, but they seem to have a pretty solid reputation for conversion among studios.
Yeah, they're up there. There's pretty much the Lynx. There's this one which is great for mastering. They do a couple more which have more channels, but I just need a stereo output and input really for what I'm doing. But yeah, they're up there. So everything comes out of my converters into my mastering router, which is a dangerous liaison. So that's basically a bit like it's like a fancy patch bay. So all my outboard gear is connected to that, and I can just press buttons to bring it in or out and change the order, and use some of the bits in parallel processing as well. So I can really quickly put an EQ in, turn it on or off to sort of hear what the before and after.
That's cool. So it's almost it's sort of, you've got the quickness of plugins, if you like, but on outboard gear.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I can literally have 6 or 7 bits of gear going and then just click all of them in or out or swap the order and stuff, like really super quick, which is great.
Amazing.
Literally, yeah, at the touch of a button, which is really important for making decisions, because your audio or auditory memory is really short. So when we're listening to stuff, if there's too long a pause, I think it's about 4 seconds. Too long a pause between listening to one thing and then listening to the other one, you'll forget and you won't be able to compare it very well.
That's so interesting. I remember, again, just going back to the conversation I had with Ken Scott, talking about mixing sort of on the fly. That's so, I do a bit of rudimentary mixing work, and that's something that's talked about a lot in mixing is sort of impulse decisions. And obviously there's the fixing stage of mixing where you sort of make everything sound how it needs to, and then just making snap decisions based on what you're hearing in that moment. And I had no idea about what did you call it, auditory memory. I like that.
I think there might be another word for that as well, and maybe a slightly more scientific one. But yeah, what you're hearing, basically, you don't hang on to it for very long.
Amazing. That's I just didn't know it. That's really cool, and it makes sense in terms of having everything in front of you like you do, and so it sort of shows the importance of having a setup that can facilitate that. Something I routinely talk about with people who ask me advice is having a setup where I don't have to make decisions that take me a long time to sort of sort out. All my percussion is there, any snare drum that I want to use is there, cymbals that I want to change out are there. Every option available to me is literally within an arm's reach of my drum stool. So when I'm making decisions on a track for percussion and drums, it just happens. And it's sort of you've put a scientific name to it. I like that.
I'll try and dig out a couple of papers on it or whatever and send it over. But yeah, it's basically, if I listen to a bit of a track, if I had to stop, get some cables, plug in a compressor, turn it on, dial it in, and then press play again, by the time I've done that, I wouldn't, my auditory memory wouldn't be good enough to actually compare the two. So it's really important that we can do this all really quick. So I guess that's really it's a super important part of the of the studio. It's a question you see all the time on sort of audio forums and stuff, like, what I want to start mastering, what gear should I get, and it's a bit of a difficult one, because you need a few pieces really before you can start using the outboards efficiently.
Yeah, it's I mean, it seems to always be the case. It's in a sense, it's a boring piece of gear to have, but incredibly important. We all want, I'd love a huge rack of, I've got a couple, but a huge rack of 1073s or valve pre's or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I need a good interface to start with, because if I have all of those things going through a terrible interface, there's no point. So you got to build from the ground up, don't you?
Yeah, it's true. And one of the most common things that comes up, like, I'm a member in a few mastering sort of Facebook groups and different forums and stuff. And it's the really boring stuff that's the most important, like sound acoustic treatment. No one wants to go and spend 600 quid on an acoustic panel. People want a piece of gear in front of them where they can play with the dials and stuff.
Again, it's interesting that you're saying that. I mean, going back to the conversation with Malcolm Toft, who famously made the Trident desks.
Yeah,
that's his piece of advice. What's your piece of advice for young people coming up? Acoustic treatment. Make sure your room is treated. That's why I was asking you about it at the beginning, because I know it's such an important part. And it's it's those little things that are they're the boring answers to the questions, but you want to. Everybody wants to buy a pair of headphones that sound like some studio in LA,
Yeah,
or a plug-in. Have you seen those plugins that do that? That emulate mixing rooms in studios,
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
and I mean, that's cool. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
that's extremely cool. But if just make sure that your room sounds nice
yeah,
when you're doing it,
yeah,
or send
yeah,
it to somebody who has got a nice sounding room. That's
yeah,
and it's we all just want to buy. Everybody wants a quick fixes and cool stuff, and it's
yeah.
just
Oh, yeah,
unfortunately it's not the cool stuff to spend all your money on.
yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's a shame, but it is.
So following on from that,
Yeah.
do you have your gear racked out in a particular order?
Um, yeah, I've got it set up really for how it works best visually for me. So I have my two EQs right in front of me on the desk because they've got the most sort of detailed information that I need to look at. So all the EQ points and how much I'm boosting or cutting by. So everything's sort of set up. Yeah. So it's quick, the quickest and easiest way for me to use it, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of bits that I don't use as often, but I might have to stand up and look over to just fine tune the dials and stuff. So yeah, the ones I use least are further away from me.
And what would they be?
So I guess one of them is the Unfair Child compressor. Not that I use it the least, but it's the biggest. It's an
Yeah.
eight rack units, which is pretty huge. But all the dials and stuff are really big, and I can see them fine.
Yeah.
Where it is, and then the other one is a different EQ, a third EQ that I use mainly for mid-side processing.
Okay.
So it's a bit more subtle in its use, and because it's got wider EQ curves to it, there's not as much detail on the actual unit, so I can see the settings fine. But my two main EQs, I've got loads of information, so I'm sat directly over them.
Okay, so let's talk about them. So what are those
Yeah.
two EQs?
So I guess the first one, and probably your favourite, would be the Chandler Curve Bender.
Yes, ding
So
ding
this
ding.
is the one from the yeah.
All the fireworks are going off. I feel like I knew this was coming. I'm just excited to talk about it.
Yeah, have to get some sound effects lined up for this one. But yeah, so this is the EQ from the original Abbey Road's desk, the TG12345, which is the famous desk at Abbey Road that the Beatles recorded a lot on.
Yes.
Dark Side of the Moon was done on, like some massive iconic albums. So, and this is just the EQ section of that desk.
So I was doing a bit of reading about it, and it seems that about 10-ish years ago is when Chandler decided to reissue it. And am I right in thinking that some of the EQ points are they've put more points in now? So is there sort of 50 different points that you can get, or something? That's just a bit more varied than in the original version, although the back end of it all is the same. You can just get a bit more out of it now.
Yeah, definitely. So the original EQ on the desk had 3 dials, like you might see on a lot of mixing desks, with a bass, middle, and treble. So the bass was literally had one setting that was just called bass, and that would and you could turn it up or down. So there's now let me count here. So there's now 7 settings on the bass section here. So they've added 6 more. So yeah, it's a bit more usable for that. And then the middle section has been split into a low mid and a high mid. and they've added loads more EQ points. And then again, I think the high one on the original desk was just one setting of 10 kilohertz that you could turn up or down.
Okay.
And that's got 7 or 8 on. So
it's interesting how restricted it all was back then. I love the fact that bass up or down. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Why what interested you in buying? I mean, you mentioned already the sort of unfair child that you've got as well. But like, have you got a particular interest in I mean, it doesn't need to necessarily be Beatles related, but there's definitely a sound that those two units in particular have, and sort of an image they conjure up in your mind's eyes. What was your inspiration between those in buying those two?
Yeah, just I guess just that they're both like legendary pieces. The original Fairchild and the desk that have been used on so many albums from the 60s even onwards. I think the curve bender EQ now is used. They used it on Beyonce's Lemonade and stuff like that. There's loads of modern albums that are still using this.
Wow.
And because it sounds great, and there's a reason it's lasted for decades. It sounds really good. Same with the Fairchild. It's they have a sound, and it's consistently worked from Beatles stuff to modern stuff.
Do you think that sound wise they are trying to sort of decipher what it is about that sort of era of gear that is right? I mean, obviously the sort of Fairchild, the Beatles absolutely rinsed it, particularly on drums. One of the things that the Beatles are known for in terms of mixing is just cranking things. And clearly you're not quite going to be quite as heavy-handed with it. But the fact that they're such colourful pieces of gear must be part of the reason that they've stood the test of time. Like, they're confidently unique as what they are. That a lot of modern, say like a surgical EQ or some sort of parametric EQ is not going to have the same richness to the sound quality of it that gear in the 60s had through necessity, or just because that's what the technology was available. It wasn't by choice back then. It was just like that's just what it was.
And part of it was like you say, was a happy accident. Some of the gear added noise to the signal, but it turned out that was a really nice type of noise. This harmonic saturation that like thickened the signal in a nice way. And there was lots of gear that did it in a not very nice way, and obviously that gear hasn't stood the test of time. But I've totally forgotten your question about that.
That's fine. I just love the idea. I love the idea that modern records are using gear that began life in the 60s, essentially. I can't find, that's just such a brilliant example of why this particular era is so important in music. Just one example, that's the recording side of things, let alone sort of the songwriting side of things. And there's a thousand reasons we could talk about as to why it's so important. But, the fact that, Beyonce record is using an EQ that was made in the 60s just sort of tickles me. I love it.
sort of made especially for Abbey Road and for that sort of era.
It's incredible. How are they? Oh, could you just talk about actually your other EQ while we're here talking about EQs?
So I've got a couple more. I've got the a Great River stereo mastering EQ, which is another one. It's got a good bit of heritage going back to, I think, the 70s. And But I mean, it's been updated now with sort of a cleaner signal path and stuff like that. But it's another one. It's a lot cleaner and a lot more transparent than the curve bender and tube stuff. But it's got some great options where you can drive it and get a really nice sort of saturated sound.
You've almost answered my next question. I'm interested as to how, obviously 2 mammoth EQs that you've got there. How do you, I mean, presumably you don't think about it. It's almost instinctive. But how would you describe how you choose to use what and in what way?
Yeah, I guess it's quite hard to put into words. I'll have to do like a comparison of these one day, and like run a piece of audio through them both, because they have a few EQ points that are exactly the same. But yeah, they both just sort of have their own sound. So I just sort of I'd use the curve bender, say, for stuff that's if I'm EQing around the vocal range, that's where it
Okay.
really works beautifully. It sounds amazing, sort of boosting around there. And a great river I find really great on bass and really high end. So it's got like a 22K shelf, which can be a bell boost as well, actually. But so it's really super high sort of air, the sort of glistening sort of airy sound on the top is really great for that. So I'll quite often use the Great River after something's come out of the Fairchild compressor. So as it's gone into the compressor, it's been sort of tiny bit squashed, and it's got some sort of valve saturation and stuff like that. And then adding that really high air on top coming out of that really sort of opens it up a bit.
It's I know it's a sort of nerdy talk, but I really enjoy hearing the, I enjoy the struggle of trying to put it into words. It's really interesting. I mean, there's decisions that I make at the studio that you don't think about them, especially when you're working on your own, do you? I mean, both of us work on our own an awful lot, and you've not got a mental commentary running. You just make the decision, don't you, based on what you sort of, based on that 4 seconds rule that you talked about before. You're just doing things, and then somebody says, "Why have you used the curve bender there as opposed to the Great River?" And you go, "Well, I don't know. I just know that it's going to do the thing that I want it to do." And I can't really describe what that thing is, but there's something there that I just need to. I know that will do it. It is very difficult to put into words.
Yeah, I guess it's a lot of time spent doing it as well. You reach for a piece of gear and test it. If it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, you try the next piece and sort of play around like that. So the more you do that, the more you're likely to pick the right gear first time.
How does compression and limiting then fit into your setup? If we've talked a lot about EQs, so you've got the Fairchild there, and then what else have you got?
So the massive Fairchild, which is great, big valve compressor. So typically at the mastering stage, I don't use a lot of compression, but stuff goes through the compressor even if it's not actually getting compressed, because it still picks up those valves.
I keep cutting you off because it's such an interesting topic, but that's something that I do. I have the Fairchild plugin, the Waves one. I think they called it a Puig Child, and on my Beatles mixes, obviously I smash it. But on when I'm mixing in general, I'll often run things through it, just completely flat, and it's lovely, absolutely lovely. Particularly on vocals, I find it sort of brings them out really nicely.
I mean, that's part of the beauty of this one is you can stuff through it, and it has 6 valves on the input stage that pad the signal. So just going into it, you get sort of 12 dBs worth of valve saturation.
Loveliness.
Yeah. But I still do use it for slight compression, obviously, depending on the material. But then I have a dangerous compressor, which is pretty much the exact opposite of that. It's a super transparent, super clean compressor, which I'll sort of use on if anything's a bit spiky or is sort of a bit too dynamic and I just want to sort of tame the peaks a little bit. I might run it through the dangerous compressor instead, because that won't really add anything to it, but it can sort of just make stuff just even everything out a bit nicer. And then I'll go into an analog limiter before it goes back into the computer.
It sounds like you've thought, you've got a really well thought through collection of gear, that you've, sort of a nice combination between sort of color pieces and pieces that are sort of clear and just do a job, essentially.
Yeah, sort of just like work tools. Yeah, so I've got a couple that just do something that I need them to do, and then I've got a couple that are a bit more creative, I guess.
What's missing? What's next?
What's missing? There's a few things I've got my eyes on. I haven't mentioned my analogue actually yet. My analog tape simulator. Which
yes, I read about that on your website. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah. So it's an analog piece of gear.
Would you mind just mentioning the name again? The signal broke up as you said it, and I know everyone will be going, "What did he say? What did he say?"
So it's the Anamod ATS1, and they've just come back into production. Actually, they went out of production for quite a long time.
Okay.
So you can buy them, although I think they might have all been snapped up straight away. But look into it if you're interested. But it's a 2-unit piece of outboard gear, which relies on analog modeling, and it has card slots in it, and you can buy different cards which emulate the sound of different tape machines.
Oh.
So I've got in here a Studer AAT and an older Ampex tape machine, which I can just flip between.
Amazing.
And these are well regarded within the sort of mastering community as sounding as close as you could possibly get to running stuff out to tape and back.
That's incredible.
In fact, people prefer using this because it's so close, it's unnoticeable, and it's so much easier and quicker to use.
Yeah, I mean, even the podcast that's currently out as we are recording this is with Simon Trott at Soup Studios, and we talk about the pitfalls of of tape. As gorgeous as it is, but then the fact of life is that particularly for what you're doing, you're not actually recording to tape. But the fact of the modern way is a lot of us don't have time to be doing that. We need something reliable. If you can get 99% of the way there with something like that, then why not?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely works for me for mastering, because I might send a project out and someone want me to then tweak it a bit. I need to be able to recall every setting. So this helps me do that. Whereas if I was using a proper tape machine to run everything out to and back, it just wouldn't be the same every time. There's so many variations in humidity that affects tape, how it's lined up on the heads and everything like that. So
yeah.
I just wouldn't be able to use it reliably enough for mastering, I don't think.
So, I mean, I'm still just sort of in awe of that. It's such a cool piece of gear. I want one.
Yeah, and you can actually buy different. There's still a couple of other machine types I could order off the website and slot in another machine, so I could flip between them.
It's
pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of a nice balance between sort of analog and kind of the plugin world, really, because it's almost like an
Yeah.
outboard plugin, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
And it just seems like a nice sort of bridge between them.
Yeah.
But you say it uses analog technology as opposed, it's not digital modeling, is it? They've got, as it presumably has electronics inside it that
Yeah.
do the lifting work.
Yeah.
So I go on then. What's missing? we didn't get to what's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's there's a few pieces of gear that are basically saturation devices. So yeah, I've got there's sort of three different things that I would, if I had the money, I'd buy straight away and start in here. But they're all sort of the same thing in that the units which add color rather than do a specific task of compression or EQ. So like just to add vibe or harmonic saturation, color, mojo, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. What are they?
So one is a Kerwax replica.
Okay.
Built by Kerwax. There's a studio in France, and the guy's hand built a analog studio. And yeah, it's an all valve thing, and it's basically a unit that has a load of valves in it, and you can drive them at different sort of different rates and stuff like that.
How do you spell Kerwax? I'm curious now.
Oh, K-E-R.
Yeah.
Wax, W-A-X.
Okay, that's not it's not a name I've heard before.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful building. It looks like a nice old French manor.
Yeah.
That's cool. So so it's almost like a valve sort of amplifier where you can choose how much saturation you're using on the valves.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, just you could drive something, get it really thick and sort of warm, or just add a real subtle touch. So yeah, that's something that I've had my eye on for a while. I'd certainly like to try out. And then there's the one that's come out more recently, which was a sort of collaboration between Hendy Amps, who make amazing gear, and another mastering engineer. That is called The Oven.
Okay.
If you type in Hendy Amps The Oven, I'm sure you'll find it.
I love all of these names that they all have are so glamorous, aren't they?
Yeah. And this is another one that is a very similar thing, but it has a lot more options, and they've chosen to name it all around sort of cooking related.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. That's a very cool piece of gear. Temperature, cook,
broil, I think is one.
I can't see that it's sort of faded out on one side. That's incredible. Sizzle. Yeah, sizzle's one of them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh yeah, they've the central dials are called the burners.
Oh yeah.
That's brilliant.
I sort of like the fact that it's not quite as scientific as some outboard can be, and it's like, let's add some sizzle, or let's add some burn to this track. I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. So I think so there's a few bits of really good sort of high end gear like that I'd certainly like to try out anyway. That sort of fit with my studio and the way I work, which is heavy on the analog gear and adding that sort of analog signal to stuff.
I really enjoy that. You could ask anybody in the audio industry, or just any musician in general, what's on your list, and you straight away knew there's 3 things on my list. Everyone's got their list, haven't they?
Yeah. Oh, there's 20 grand's worth of gear on my list if I had the money.
That's it, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to talk a little bit about your free Mastering Mondays that you've been offering. So um, clearly, COVID has affected everything, and the sort of remote industries, that I work in, and mastering is essentially a remote industry, even if you're working with local clients, um, have exploded, and they've exploded in a in a positive way, but then also a lot of people are losing work. Um, I for one have, a lot of the touring that I was doing before.
Yeah.
It's actually helped because now I'm, working a lot at the studio, and I'm enjoying that. But a lot of people have lost a huge chunk of their incomes, and I think what you're offering with your free Mastering Mondays is the antidote to that. It's such a brilliant and generous idea. Could you just tell us a bit about how you came up with that, and what your goal is in doing it?
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's just been such a crazy year. And yeah, I've made my living for a good part of time as a live musician myself, and I've slowly sort of phased that out to do more studio based stuff. So yeah, a lot of my friends are touring musicians. That's their living. My circle of friends is sort of based around the music and arts sort of world. And yeah, I mean, even though I don't rely on playing live for my living, just not being able to go to gigs and play the odd gig has been really tough. So yeah, so I just thought I'd try and do my like a really small part to help out. I've got a family who work in the NHS, and I just think yeah, people are just working so hard to help other people at the minute. If I can just do like a small thing that helps out, I'm happy to. Um,
So
so yeah,
what's the deal with it? How does it work?
yeah. So I just thought I'd just put one day aside where I just work for free for every Monday. I just offer mastering of one track for free for anyone that gets in touch. And yeah, just send me a track and I'll master it and send it back. Yeah, so yeah, I'm here to work for anyone who sends a track in. Um, yeah, I guess the idea was to help musicians that have been at home, haven't been able to tour. They might have been able to record a single or some stuff, and then if I can master it and get it sounding really good, they can then upload it and sell it to their fans, or get it played on the radio, or at least get some sort of either financial or just or sort of creative um, uh, reward from it.
It's such an incredibly generous thing. I mean, I've experienced it myself, that just how lovely the community of musicians are. Um, Instagram seems to be the important tool for us in terms of sort of peddling our wares, if you like. But everybody is so generous. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of lots of generosity on Instagram and tried to give it.
Yeah,
I think I think it can be for songwriters who are writing on their own now a lot. I mean, even outside of COVID, people were they're getting home setups and all that kind of stuff. It can
yeah,
feel like an intimidating industry to approach. Who do you go for mastering? Who do and how is it really expensive? And it's just a big minefield of places. And the same could be said for remote working, for a remote instrument playing, like what I do.
yeah,
And I think the more generous you can be, the better. Really, we essentially we do what we do because we love it, not because we want to make £1 million out of it. you know.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. And it's been amazing. I've had some really people who've got in touch who like you say, had anything mastered before. Have been a bit sort of bamboozled by the whole thing. And yeah, I've been able to just explain stuff and help people out a little bit, and people have been just really grateful. And yeah, it's just been, I think it's been great to just to it doesn't take me that long, and even if I spend one day a week doing it, it gets, it has such a big knock-on effect for people, I think.
It's brilliant. I mean, I'll put details on how to get in touch with you and things on the sort of notes for this, because I think hopefully it's a service that a lot of people listening to this can sort of take advantage of. I mean, your rates are extremely reasonable anyway, so but they, I think your what you're doing is perfect in terms of the sound for the sort of music that people who are listening to this will be interested in. I mean, I know you just finished working on Joe Kane, who I've interviewed for this podcast as well, and I think I'll have to interview him again. I haven't got any choice because he's just made this incredible Beatlesy album using loads of beautiful analog gear at his studio, and I mean, I'm just going to have to get him back in to talk about it all. But you've just finished working on that, and that's proper sort of Beatles pastiche, early 60s, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he's phenomenal. I just can't. Yeah, you can't really describe how well he's got everything down and how good he gets it. You just have to go listen to it. It's.
But the fact that as soon as he found out about you and the sort of curve bender you've got and the fair challenge you've got, it was like, well, it's perfect. I have no choice but to have it mastered by Ben. It's just it was, and he messaged me 2 days ago with a little sound clip of something that you've just worked on for him, and it sounded amazing. You've just done such a superb job. Really sympathetically enhancing what he's doing, because you have to be really careful with that sort of pastiche type stuff. You know, it can go wrong quite quickly, and the job you've done making it sound the way it sounds is amazing. It sounds brilliant.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad. It's been amazing to work on. It's such great tunes, and just love running it through all this gear. And
do you have a sort of favorite style that you like working on, or a favorite maybe not a genre, but is, say having a full sort of rock band setup or acoustic guitar and vocal? Do you have sort of a particular favorite thing that you like working on?
I think the beauty of mastering is like the variety. I think if I worked on any one thing all day, every day, I'd probably tire of it pretty soon. But the fact I can master a folk EP in the morning and then get a death metal track in the afternoon and then do a hip hop compilation the next day, it's just brilliant. I think that's what I really love. I mean, there's music I like to play and that I might listen to at home, but for mastering, the variety is great.
Cool.
A bit of everything, sort of non-answer there, but
okay, so
anything. Oh, I was just going to say anything more sort of dynamic works great with my gear. So stuff that's been recorded with live instruments, live vocals, even, just really fits well. I still do master dance stuff like that occasionally, but my gear works great with like lively music.
Yeah, I can see that. Like as we've sort of discussed, you've got a good balance between creative tools and sort of tools just for tools' sake. Tools to do a job, and I think the more creativity you've got the more room for creativity you have in the music, that sort of lets your not only your gear but sort of the decisions that you make more interesting. Um,
Yeah, sure.
what what would you do? Have any, say, singer songwriter is at home working on a mix of a song now to send to you. Do you have any particular mistakes that you see routinely, or things that you've got to fix in the master, um, that you think are worth pointing out to people who might be preparing mixes for mastering?
Um, yeah, I don't think there's any sort of one problem that occurs all the time. I guess the main thing is mixes coming in really loud and already sort of limited or heavy compressed, because then that sort of limits what I can do on my end. So I guess, yeah, the main advice I give to anyone who sends me stuff is don't put a limiter on your master bus, and just mix it at a nice level. Don't push it, because the more dynamic it is at that stage, ironically, the louder I can make it at my end, if you want a loud master. So yeah, so I think just, yeah, people like things loud. It's sort of quite natural for us to gain and volumes just creep up, so
Well,
yeah,
humans,
just leave
it's the
things.
human thing, isn't it? Louder is better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, but things just sound so much better when it's nice and dynamic and nice and open.
What as a in the sort of entrepreneurial mindset, again, I'd loathe to use that word, but the kind of, musicians have all got that spirit inside them.
Yeah.
As somebody who's gone from sort of the germination of an idea of like, oh, I'd like to be, I'd like to have a mastering studio, to suddenly having this, incredibly well kitted out studio, and you're sort of, you're living the dream essentially. You're doing a job that you absolutely love with some incredible gear that you're really good at. And what advice would you give to anybody who is working at home, or perhaps listeners who want to get involved in the audio industry? And what's your experience of the industry at the moment, and how would you advise going about sort of taking next steps for people?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's not like getting a job where you apply for a job, and then if you get it, you have a start date, and then you're starting to do that job, and then you do it. Because I've been doing this since I guess I started at college at 16. I'm 39 now, and it's been quite gradual for me to get where I am now. And big part, I think, of why I can do this full time is because I've spent 20 years around musicians, being sound engineer, a live musician, and I guess spending 20 years practicing, building contacts and all that sort of stuff. And even this studio has sort of taken me 10 years to really build up to where it is now. So yeah, I think it takes a long time. I think you just have to keep doing what you love doing, and if you have a goal in mind, that's great. And this for me formulated over quite a long period of time. So which is, there's no really good advice there apart from.
Well, I think it's patience is the word that springs to mind, and
Yeah,
the sort of the way that the world is it's a. I think there's a meme that I've discussed on the podcast before of like I think you'll have seen it. Like, it's those four squares, and someone gets their first interface and like opens GarageBand, and suddenly they're a mix engineer. And
yeah,
it's that thing. And the reality is that it takes an awful long time to do it. And even just working in music in general, it took me 10 years to get to the point where I didn't lose sleep over where my money was coming from.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that took it took 10 years of doing it, and I think a lot of I'm not suggesting for any second that anyone listening to this is like it, but a lot of people expect that things happen quite quickly,
Yeah.
and want we live in an immediacy, a culture with immediacy now, don't we? And that I think often people don't appreciate how much work has gone into it. The sort of backstory behind your studio, and how you've got to do it, and why why they should entrust you to master their songs. Essentially, I'm putting the words out there. I know you can't say people should trust you to master their songs necessarily, but there's a reason why you're doing it, and you're really good at it, and it's taken you a long time to get there, and that's I think it's easy to overlook that.
Yeah.
Particularly when people are making the decision to spend money on things that, as we've sort of spoken about earlier, that plugins could do. They go, well, why would I pay someone X amount of money to master it when I can have a plugin that can just do a kind of job? And the reality is they're not going to. It's not the same. There is a vast difference, a cavernous difference between what a plugin can do and what you can achieve at your place, and through all of that experience that you've built up.
Yeah, it's it's like you say, patience and a lot of time, which is, I guess, I'm here now because 10 years ago I started mastering records that we'd recorded in a living room, and I was curious and really eager to learn at every stage. And some of those records that we first did back then, we managed to get played on like Six Music and radio and stuff like that. I'm not putting any of that down to my mastering skills, but but it was I think just the fact we were doing it all the time, and we weren't really doing it for like a financial thing. It wasn't a business idea or anything. It was, we just loved doing it, so we recorded and mixed and mastered all the time. So I guess that's the advice. If you want to get into it, just to do it all the time, and as much as you can, and it'll unfold over time.
I like that way of thinking about it. That it unfolds slowly over time. I think that's a nice way. Where can people find more information about Raretone Mastering and what you're doing?
So the website is raretonemastering.com, and then there's probably the best thing to do if you're on social media is to follow my Instagram. I'm not great at all social media, but I do use Instagram. So
your game has upped significantly over the past few months. You don't. I don't think you need to be. Don't be too hard on yourself. I love your social media.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad. I'm glad you've noticed. That's good. I am making a real effort to actually be on there and engage with people, and a lot of people are getting in touch about the free Mastering Mondays. So I try to be on there so I can reply and send people to the website to do that. So Instagram or the website, raretonemastering.com/free is the free Mastering Mondays page.
Cool. So I'll link all down to all of that stuff, and I'm hoping that we've already discussed that by the time this episode is out, so I split these episodes into two halves. Anyone who's on my Isolated Drums mailing list, Ben has kindly offered to master some of my drum tracks to send out to you guys. So we are I am going to have a think about what I think would be the best ones to run through your beautiful gear and have your Midas touch put on them. And then for a whole month, I'll send out, absolutely ridiculously, incredibly good sounding drums. I hope.
Yeah, I can't wait to get the drums through this Unfair Child. Can't wait to do that.
I'm thinking, I mean, people should perhaps get in touch and let me know. It'll be too late by this point, but
Oh yeah,
I might put it out on Instagram and ask people to get in touch. But I need to think of what's going to benefit the most. I'm thinking maybe something off Revolver, something off Sergeant Pepper's, and then maybe something off White Album and Abbey Road might be quite cool. So we get a good mix of things.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah,
I need to get my thinking cap on and decide what I want.
yeah, please do. Yeah, it'll be great fun doing those.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for taking such a huge chunk of your day to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure. Yeah, it's been great.
Are aware that I record isolated drum stems, so exact transcriptions of Ringo's part on different Beatles songs, and Ben has offered to run some of my stems through his Chandler EQ and the Fairchild, and he's got a tape emulation piece of hardware that he uses. It sounds fantastic, and that's what you were listening to. So it was With a Little Help was the first sort of seg beat, and that one was I Want You, She's So Heavy, and they're all tracks that I will be sending out to my mailing list in the next few weeks that have been run through Ben's gear. So if you want to get those and you're not already on the mailing list, it's allyouneedisdrums.com and sign up there, and it's all completely free. Then the one I'm going to send out tomorrow is Dear Prudence, and we've also done, trying to think which one it is now, Back in the USSR. So I Want You, She's So Heavy, With a Little Help from My Friends, Back in the USSR, and Dear Prudence. And I'm going to start with Dear Prudence tomorrow. raretonmastering.com. I'll put all the links to it in the show notes. Okay, so the next episode in 2 weeks' time is with John Kurlander and Scott, Malcolm Toft, and John Kurlander, who all started at 16 at Abbey Road and all learnt from each other. So John Kurlander is perhaps the last of that list of people. And he is now a very well-known mix engineer. He spent 30-odd years at Abbey Road doing all kinds of different sessions, and he has mixed the Lord of the Rings soundtracks and done some amazingly diverse things. So all manner of pop recordings, right through to sort of big classical things, which I'm not that familiar with. Obviously, the film scores I'm familiar with. But sort of classical artists I'm not that familiar with, but I still find it absolutely fascinating that he had a career so diverse. So next couple of episodes will be with John Kurlander, and they are amazing. I was so excited to share this interview with you. It's potentially one of my favourite interviews I've ever done. And apologies to everybody I've interviewed. You're all my favourites, but I particularly enjoyed this interview, so I can't wait for that to come out. So that'll be there in 2 weeks' time. As usual, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can do that. My email address is joe@allyouneedisdrums.com. You can visit allyouneedisdrums.com, my website, or I'm on Instagram. I'll put links to all Ben's stuff in the show notes. And that just leaves me to say a big thank you to my friend Joe Kane for the amazing intro and outro music he supplied for this podcast, and my good friend David Henshaw for the artwork he lovingly supplies to me every 2 weeks. So have a fantastic fortnight, and I will speak to you all soon. Goodbye.